Good morning. This is David. I'll be your presenter throughout this video series. Welcome to How to Build a High-Performance Accounting Business, Session 1, Introduction. What is a high-performance accounting business? A high-performance accounting business is an accounting business that exceeds industry financial condition, profit, cash flow, and equity standards. For example, the public accounting business industry's profit margin is 33%. Whereas Consortia Small Business Accountants' profit margin is 42%. Accounting services clarification. When we use the words accounting services, we're generally referring to bookkeeping, payroll, accounting, and tax services. Who should be here? Bookkeepers, payroll processors, accountants, and tax preparers who want to start or grow an accounting business. Why should you be here? At the end of this video series, you'll have three options. 1. Take what you learn and build a high-performance accounting business. 2. Have Consortia Accounting Business Advisors assist you in building a high-performance accounting business. Or 3. Join the Consortia Small Business Accountants Accounting Business Network. Consortia Accounting Business Advisors. Consortia Accounting Business Advisors is the national organization that coordinates and governs the Consortia Small Business Accountants network of independent members operating in specific states. Consortia Accounting Business Advisors develops and implements what we call the accounting business system, accounting business organization, processes, and strategies for Consortia Small Business Accountants and other independent accounting business clients. Consortia Accounting Business Advisors doesn't provide services to accounting clients. Consortia Small Business Accountants. Consortia Small Business Accountants is the national network of independent members operating in specific states. Consortia provides bookkeeping, payroll, accounting, and tax services to small businesses. In addition, Consortia implements our business performance system. Our business performance system increases our small business clients' financial condition, profit, cash flow, and equity. How to build a high-performance accounting business. We present our accounting business system to bookkeepers, payroll processors, accountants, and tax preparers who want to build a high-performance business. You learn how to increase your financial condition, profit, and cash flow, and equity. Types of accounting businesses. Typically, there's three: a freelancer, a sole proprietor, or a single or multi-member limited liability company, or LLC. Freelancer. A freelancer is a self-employed independent contractor who earns wages on a per job or per task basis, typically for short-term work. Self-employment is earning income without being employed and paid by someone else. Self-employed individuals generally must pay self-employment tax as well as income tax. Freelancers don't have employees and they can subcontract their work to others. Sole proprietor. A sole proprietor is someone who owns an unincorporated business by themselves. Unincorporated businesses are sole proprietorships, that is, owned by a single individual, and partnerships, owned by two or more individuals. Limited liability companies. A limited liability company is a corporate structure that protects its owners from being personally pursued for repayment of the company's debts or liabilities. Corporate structure refers to a business that operates as a legal entity distinct from its owners, and therefore it's the protection that is wanted by those who incorporate with a limited liability company. Professional liability insurance. Professional liability insurance, or errors and omissions, or E&O insurance, protects individuals and businesses from financial losses resulting from professional negligence, errors, or omissions in their services. It covers claims of financial harm to clients due to mistakes or failures to perform professional duties, including legal fees, court costs, and settlements. And we always advise having professional liability insurance. Accounting business model. You save time and money if you build an accounting business from a business model. You build a high-performance business if you build it from a high-performance model. Consortia Small Business Accountants Accounting Business System. Consortia is one of the most successful accounting service companies in the United States. Consortia is highly successful because of our accounting business system. This video series presents our accounting business system. Business system in general. A business system is a set of interconnected business processes that work together to achieve the company's primary business objectives. Each process has a defined set of objectives, policies, and procedures that are applied to achieve their respective results. Primary business objectives. So overall, what is it we're trying to accomplish? And how can we establish a high-performance organization? Number one, by looking at its financial condition. Number two, looking at its profit. Number three, looking at its cash flow. And number four, looking at its equity. So if we're increasing our financial condition, increasing our profit, enhancing our cash flow, and increasing our equity every year, that typically is, if it's above industry standards, is a high-performance business. Now, what's interesting, of course, is where you get that information. And of course, you get your financial condition from your balance sheet, profit from an income statement or P&L statement, cash flow from a statement of cash flows, and equity from the statement of changes in owner's equity. These are four things that are essential in determining a high-performance organization. So how are we able to achieve those four primary objectives? And that is by performing what we call the primary business processes. Number one, research and development. Two, marketing. Three, sales. Four, production. Five, finance. And six, customer service. These processes must be taking place simultaneously to produce a high-performance business. Now, to make sure we're on the same page, let me just take a moment to define each of these operas. Research and development. Research is the process of determining the demand and supply of your target market. The objective is to increase your profit by determining what products and services your market wants or needs and how much they will pay for it. Development is the process of developing products and services that supply the demand of your target market. The objective is to increase profit by developing products or services with a higher demand and a lower supply. Marketing. Marketing is the process of cultivating relationships with prospective clients. The objective is to develop relationships or prospective clients. Selling or sales. Sales is the process of asking for a prospective client's business, whereas the objective is to generate sales or clients. Production. Production is the process of performing a service or producing a product. But performing a service or producing a product isn't enough. We want to do so productively. So therefore, we look for productivity. Productivity measures how efficiently services are performed and products are produced. Finance. Finance is the management of cash, generally including the following activities: operating cash, investing cash, and financing cash. However, the primary source and use of cash in a business is operating cash flow. That's where you focus your attention. Customer service, or what we call client care. Customer service is the support, assistance, and advice provided by a company to those who buy or use its products or services. Customer service is practiced in a way that reflects the values and the strategies of your business. So, in a nutshell, how does it work? When you begin any business, it always begins with what products or what services are we going to sell, and of course, to what target market. Then we begin to market to them, develop these relationships, generate prospective clients. Now, a lot of people confuse themselves with marketing and sales. Marketing's job is to go to the target market and bring people to the door, whereas sales' job is to welcome those people at the door, on the telephone, texting, in person, at lunch, whatever the case may be, and to bring them through the door in as a client. So therefore, you go after your target market, communicate and develop relationships that generate prospects from marketing. Sales takes over, they take the baton, and they then go through their process of bringing someone on as a client. Now, once you have a client, it's now time to produce that service or that product. And so let's say, for example, if it's a tax return, we produce the tax return as productively as possible. Then, of course, the next thing is to be paid for it. We've concluded our services, and therefore we prefer to be paid. And that's where finance kicks in, and that's where operating cash flow kicks in, and cash management. And therefore, the most important thing is to be paid as soon as possible. In fact, typically in our system, you're prepaid before the work's even done. Okay? Never later than when the work is done. But again, we'll be talking about each one of these throughout the 7-week series. And the last one we'll talk about in session 7 is customer service. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about these and how important they are, so I'll leave it at that. But the point is, this is an actual process. In other words, I mentioned to you that business is a system. This is the system. R&D, marketing, sales, production, finance, customer service, and you continue to perform R&D, improving your products and services, bringing on new products and services, marketing those services, selling those services, producing those services, getting paid for those services, and customer service. So all of this has to be managed. Now, what's important, the way I look at this, is that a manager doesn't work in the business. They're not doing R&D, they're not doing marketing, they're not doing sales, etc. But what they're doing is they're managing these processes. And so the way I like to compare it to is to a symphony conductor. I love going to the symphony. And so I remember when I had my firstborn son and brought him to the symphony for the first time. And at the end, he said, well, what does that man up front do? Of course, he's referring to the conductor. And he's basically saying he has no role. He doesn't even play an instrument. So I explained to him, well, Brian, overall, a majority of the work that he does or she does is before the performance, okay? And so what the conductor's opportunity is that he has to work with sections of the symphony. He has to work with winds, brass, percussion, and he has to be able to make sure that all of these 4 sections work together in harmony, okay? And so that's literally what a manager does or should be doing. Okay, making sure that all of these things are taking place. Okay, so what are the objectives to each one of those processes? So management's job, of course, is to make sure that we're improving our financial condition, our profit, our cash flow, and equity. The buck stops with management. But overall, to do that, the easiest way is to make sure you have a competitive edge over your competition. So if I have an accounting business in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I know full well that there's a market out there and I can go after that market, but I also know full well I have a lot of competitors. And so if I'm constantly differentiating myself from my competition, always gaining a competitive edge over my competition and communicating that competitive edge to my target market, you'll be the winner every time. So that's why, although the outcome is financial condition, profit, cash flow, and equity, the bottom line here is making sure we have gain a competitive edge over our competition. Now, number 2, let me just go through these quickly. R&D, what that does, it increases our profit. The idea is the more products, the more services we have for our target market, the more money we can make. Now, let me give you an example. So let's say, for example, you're an accounting firm, but you don't provide bookkeeping or payroll. So all you do is do accounting. But what if you were to provide bookkeeping, payroll, accounting, and taxes? And so the point being made is that not only can you pick up accounting clients, but now you can also pick up bookkeeping clients, payroll clients, accounting clients, and tax clients. And so you may pick up a client doing their taxes, but you want to be able to also do their bookkeeping, do their payroll, do their accounting, and, and accounting analysis. And so the point being made here is that the more products and services you have, okay, obviously the more money you make. Now, again, we'll talk more about that later. As far as marketing, again, the idea is to generate prospects on a consistent basis. When you first do implement a marketing program, you start picking up clients every month, and then you start picking up more each week, and then you start picking up more each day. So over time, the idea is you want to consistently generating prospective clients. And of course, for sales to be able to take those prospective clients and to convert them into clients. So sales is obviously wanting to increase clients, and the more clients they can increase is all based on marketing generating more prospective clients. As far as production, the idea, as we've talked about, is to increase productivity. How can we do it faster? How can we do it better? That type of thing. Finance, of course, is making sure we get paid as soon as possible. More importantly, of course, is to be prepaid or at least paid when the services are done. And 7, of course, is customer service. Now, again, a lot of times when we talk to accountants about the importance of customer service, or again, what we call client care, is why? Isn't that what a big, department store, Nordstrom, does? Yeah, that's true, but you should do it too. And why? Because number one, you want to make sure your clients are happy. And that's what customer service job is. If you have a happy client, they're going to stay a client. You'll retain those clients. And then you'll be able to cross-sell your other services to them the happier they are. Okay. Gosh, you did such a good job with my tax return. I probably should give you your bookkeeping as well. You certainly should, or actually should be proactive on my side going after it. But that's how you increase client revenue, is by cross-selling other services and products that you have. And again, we'll talk about that. And the third thing is increasing client referrals. Your best referrals will always come from your clients. And so you want to have an actual process where you're constantly asking for client referrals from your customer base. Accounting business problems. Now, you could really say small business accounting problems, but these take place in the accounting business as well, of course. And what they are is, number one, gosh, I'm just not as competitive as with my competition. There's too much competition out there, or I'm just not as profitable as I used to be. I just, whatever, I just don't get it. I'm not generating the clients, that I once did or ever did. I'm not as productive as I should be. The cash flow just isn't where it needs to be. The revenue is okay, but I'm just not getting paid on time, so on and so forth. And number 6, client retention. My client turnover is too high. Okay, I've got too many clients leaving me. So it's not to say that every accounting business has all of these problems, because they don't. But every accounting business has some of these, at least 2 or 3 of these problems. Why? Because they're not performing the comparable processes that we've talked about. Okay, so reason for accounting business problems, and that's what I just stated. Most freelancers, sole proprietors, and local accounting companies don't implement all the primary business processes, or they don't implement them effectively. Okay, and I could go downtown to Salt Lake City and get all the 50 accounting firms down there, and they're all going to have 2 or 3 of these problems because of not doing these processes or doing them effectively. So, primary business process results. And so here's what you need to understand. So on the left-hand side, of course, are the primary business processes. And the right-hand side are, again, those objectives. So again, management's job is to differentiate themselves and gain a competitive edge. Research and development's job is to consistently increase profit. Marketing's job is to generate prospective clients consistently. Sales' job is to generate clients consistently. Production's job is to be as productive as possible. Finance's job is to always be looking for ways to increase cash flow. And customer service's job, as I mentioned, is to retain clients, increase client revenue, and increase client referrals. And so all of those have at least one major reason. It's only customer service that has 3 reasons. And that's why it's terrible not to be enacting a client service program, customer service program. Okay. So consortia accounting business processes. So that's the whole point. We have, that is consortia accounting business advisors. We have developed actual step-by-step processes and procedures for every one of these. And we perform them every day. That is, we have teams that perform them every day within Consortia. We do them for ourselves, we do them for our independent clients, we do them for Consortia small business accountants. And that's where it all began, of course. And so when we begin to work with independent accountants, the idea is we want to make sure they understand this. So when it comes to management, obviously most accountants that have their own practice, whether if it's a sole proprietorship or a four-partner firm, they want to manage the practice, okay? And so here what we do is that the client is managing the practice, but they're primarily, and we'll talk more about this next week in management, but they're primarily managing production, the actual work. And that's what they should and can be doing. And so, but Consortia has some training that we give them to help them improve their management of that process. As far as research and development, we perform all your research and development. As far as marketing, we do all your marketing. As far as sales, we do all your sales. As far as production, once again, the client does the production. Typically, they have themselves and, of course, their staff to perform the work that they offer. But at the same time, we have written a manual for basically every primary service. We have a bookkeeping manual. We have a payroll manual. We have an accounting manual. We have an accounting analysis manual. We have a tax manual for each major tax return, 1065, 1040, 1120, that type of thing. So the point being paid here again is that they do it, okay, but using the tools we provide to them. As far as finance, again, they do their own accounting, so of course they should be doing their own billing, or again, what we call sales and receipts, but we have a system where you're always prepaid and you don't carry accounts receivable, okay? And again, we'll talk about that. And by the way, when I number these, that's when we talk about them. So for example, in finance, we'll talk about it in session 6. And finally, in session 7, customer service, we do all your customer service for you. So I help you understand that by coming together and creating synergy where we're doing our part and you're doing your part with our assistance, okay, that we're able to develop a high performance organization. So the last thing I'll share with you is the word synergy. Synergy is the interaction or cooperation of two or more organizations, Consortia, accounting business advisors, and your organization, or processes, that is the 7 primary business processes, to produce a combined effect greater than the sum of their separate effects. So in other words, each one of those has an important role, and they must fulfill the role, such as generating prospective clients or generating clients, or whatever the case may be. And each of those are extremely important. However, together, like the symphony conductor, when they're all performing, that's when we get the greatest outcome. So in other words, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So that's our introduction. And so next week, we're going to talk about management, how we increase financial condition, profit, and cash flow, as well as equity, and how we do so by gaining a competitive edge. And then, of course, week 3, research and development, week 4, marketing and sales, week 5, production, week 6, finance, and week 7, customer service. So the idea is that you'll see our accounting business system each week, each process, and you'll see again how they all work together to build high performance. Thank you for attending. Hope it's been worth your time. Have yourselves a wonderful day.